per day. We've not seen the September figures, so it's not like looking like we're going to even ever be able to eat 2 million barrels per day. And every time the pipeline is fixed, it's destroyed again. So I think states need to worry about that. They also need to worry about high GR is not something you rapidly just increase. It takes a deliberate, consistent, long-term thinking to say, what do we position ourselves at? Is it a tourism hub? Is it a manufacturing hub? Is it an outsourcing hub? Is it an agricultural hub? Is it an ICT or a tech hub? So a state has to come into that kind of understanding to say, and those are things that don't happen overnight. Those are things that take consistent year of planning.
And even the debt, it doesn't take overnight for them to clear it. So do you think that there's a clear articulated plan by most of these states to actually clear most of their debts and, you know, put their states back into winning ways?
I think the federal government has helped to a certain level for the states. Most of them, the debts have been restructured for over longer tenures. Some of them, they could not because maybe they took directly from the banks, but some of them, they could not because also the conditions were protracted. But I think for most of the states now, since they have a window of not even twice this year, they suspended debt payment so that states could have more money to share. Yeah, so I think the federal government to a certain level has helped the state, and I think over a long-term period, they will clear those debts. But what will be the bigger problem is there a large vision for these states to raise their revenues? That's the whole idea. And the problem is an incentive problem, because if I have an opportunity to go to Abuja every month to take what is mine from the Federation Pulse, what's the strong incentive to be able to look inwards and grow the opportunities? You know, you have states like Nasarawa, it's like home of solid minerals, but the IGR is shameful. It's less than 3 billion naira in a year. You have a Kogi that has one of the largest cement manufacturing plants and limestone deposits in the country, and you actually can't get it. So there has to be a conversation, a strong conversation about the entire economic structure.
Yeah, I remember
of the country.
I remember that during the analysis very recently on the Monetary Policy Committee's decision, one of the analysts who spoke to Bosun Mofai was of the view that there should be incentivize the states. Don't just always be the one to dole out to them. Give them the chance to make good, to be able to generate revenues for themselves. In terms, and you talked about Kogi State. That was one of the states that was actually mentioned. So, in line with the fact that there's a recession, most of the states are not, outside of those challenges as well, just like the federal government is going forward. And for 2016 and 2017. In another few days, 2016 ends. What's your outlook for the 36 state governments? Yeah,
for the 36 states, the prime movers will keep being there: Lagos, Delta, Rivers. Kaduna is also posting up by their 9 months figures. They show that the IGR has grossly improved. Kano is still somewhere we don't know what's happening. That's the commercial capital of the north. It should have improved. But we don't see the IGR going. And also, this speaks to the debt of manufacturing within those axes: the textile industry, the leather industry. Everything is a commodities. For the states that have been maybe conservative in their approach, I think they would continue, like Anambra, Enugu, but the states that I worry more about are even the South states. The South states, the South and the Southwest states. The Southwest states, clearly if you take Lagos out of it, and you take Ogun out of it, the entire remaining states are in one deep crisis or the other. They can't pay salaries because they have legacy issues of free education, free healthcare, and they have one of the highest recurrent bills in the country. So I worry about them. And the South also be able to apply more efficiency, because we at budget, we don't see why a state like Bayelsa has huge recurrent expenditure. A state less than 2 million people, or why a state like Akwa Ibom has almost 180 billion in terms of recurrent expenditure. So I think the South will also apply more efficiency, because they won't have any choice, since we all know that the revenue targets for next year may not even be better than what we have for this year. So everybody, I think I expect the budget to be more conservative, and for those who have
the budget for most of the states.
Yeah, and for those who have been much more those who have taken a conservative position, I think they will stay on those courses, because I don't see the revenues grossly improving next year in terms of even the oil production or the revenue, even from the IGR taking amazing leaps.
But then, going forward and taking a look as well at the broader picture, because we still have to deal with what the monetary pronouncements are. How do you think that the state governments will weave this in as they move into 2017?
The problem with the monetary problems, and the first problem I see is States, if you look at one of the analysis by the communique was that government, credit to the government is accelerating faster than credit to the private sector. And who is most responsible? Most of these problems are still back to the states. So most of the states will also rack up debts next year because some of them will still overestimate their projections, and the only way they will cover from this point is to take debt. And so you possibly still see states even racking up debt, and also still impacting on private sector prime deposit lending, because we're doing 26-27%. That's been our problem. We can't grow in that kind of interest rate regime, and every time either we don't ease it, we keep tightening it, or we keep doing nothing. And I feel, and we worry because we worry about inflation, but the inflation we have right now, it's understandable that it was a function of our exchange rate cross the devaluation that came from almost like 180, 190 to like it's now almost like 305 or 300. It's like 350, 380. It's different. So we need to basically tackle those two issues. How do we bring much more dollars into the economy so that we can create some level of stability, and when it comes to our external sector, which is very, very important. We talked about IMF, we decided not to go there. We have talked about India, giving us 15 billion upfront. We don't hear anything about that. We've gone to China and we say, oh, we're going to do a yuan deal. We don't. So there's a need for us to bring to have a buffer that uses confidence in the economy. And if we do that, and we find a way of bringing down the floor interest rate, because the problem of interest rate is the government. The government is setting a floor interest rate that is incentivizing banks to lend to them, and so we need to crash. And I think that's why states will go borrowing again next year, because it looks cool, it looks easy, and the bond markets are demanding more. Yeah.
All right. Seun, thank you so much for coming on the program this morning, despite the traffic. Yes, Seun Onyegunde is the Chief Executive Officer of Budget, and he talked to us on the state of state economies. Well, Business Morning will be back in just a moment.